A statement of work is a term that you're likely to have heard a lot about in the context of IR35 reform. Now, statements of work are not new means and mechanisms by which to engage or procure services, but it's something that has caused a lot of chatter in respect of how contractors provide their services, but also in respect of how service companies provide their services to clients. So we're going to break this down into a little bit more detail. Firstly, under the legislation, if a client is the recipient of a fully outsourced service, then that organisation does not have the obligation to consider the IR35 status of limited company contractors. That obligation would actually sit with the supplier. In this respect, the use of statements of work are often interchangeable when it comes to a client organisation thinking about how they procure the services of, for example, an IT services company, and then also when it comes to the IT services company, potentially then engaging with limited company contractors. In order for an organisation to be delivering a fully outsourced service, that supplier has to have complete control over the deliverables, the outcomes, the resourcing and the provisioning of the service in its entirety. Only in that scenario would HMRC consider them to be providing a fully outsourced service and as such assume the relevant IR35 responsibility. Where clients are unsure about whether they are the recipient of fully outsourced services or resources, we recommend that you undertake due diligence, both independent of and in conjunction with your partners, just to ensure that each party knows which has the obligation for considering the IR35 status of the individual limited company contractors. You set that position out in writing and you specify that the relevant party will take all necessary steps in order to fulfil their relevant obligations when it comes to considering the IR35 status of the limited company contractors. Now, if we take that scenario and that example a little further, where we have that IT services consultancy type firm who then in turn engages limited company contractors in order to deliver their service back to their client, they may also engage with the limited company contractors on a statement of work basis. Now, just because the contractor is being engaged on a statement of work or an SOW will not make that contractor immediately outside of IR35, and that's often a common myth that exists in the marketplace at the moment. While statements of work can be beneficial from an IR35 perspective because they are specific and they are clear and set out exactly the project or the deliverables and outcomes upon which that contractor has been engaged to provide. So there could be no dubiety in that respect that the contractor has been engaged to provide anything but a specific set of services. However, just by virtue of having that statement of work documentation in place doesn't always necessarily mean that that's how the contractor delivers their services in reality. And this is when it comes back to considering both the contractual position and the working arrangements of individual contractors in order to arrive at an accurate status determination. It goes without saying that irrespective of there being a statement of work between a supplier and a client, or a statement of work between a supplier and a contractor, subject to the companies being considered medium or large, there will be an obligation to make and apply status determinations on limited company contractors in that particular supply chain. In simple terms, a statement of work is a piece of documentation that is often associated to a master services agreement. What you might have heard a lot of recently is that being used in the context of the ways in which organisations can engage contractors and the ways in which suppliers can deliver services back to their clients. But it actually is the piece of documentation that's associated to the contract. What you often find in a statement of work is that it is very prescriptive and clear and sets out in detail the nature of the services being provided, some key milestones, deliverables and dates, and perhaps some further technical details or operational information in respect of the delivery of that key piece of work and or project.